Okay, welcome back. We're up to the 3 p.m. 1500 turn. And just a little housekeeping here. The Confederates got the initiative, so Jackson's troops will be going first. The Union is not going to bring on reinforcements this turn. That may hurt or help, or it may help or hurt them, depending upon how the situation goes. It helps them from the standpoint of they'll get one more victory point for the turn, along with whatever they get for not moving. So we'll see how that works. Confederates are still pushing the attack, and that's where I want to jump right into, because as I said, Jackson got the initiative, and he is on the attack. So let's take a look. What happened is there was two initiatives that came out. Actually, they chose the artillery first, with minor results. Rockbridge artillery fired across here, and Hamden's stack and the Augusta stack here with minor results. We got a disruption over here on the 5th Ohio. So that kind of helped over here on the left, but not necessarily here in the center. So what had to happen was that Garnett had to go in, and Burks had to come up and help the attack. So first off, Garnett went in first to attack the 67th Ohio, who, if you remember, was standing here trying to hold up the line. And they got pushed back. Oh no, excuse me. It was these guys, the 62nd Ohio. 67th Ohio was on their flank, and both of these got pushed back. Actually, got flanked by Garnett's 2nd Virginia and 4th Virginia over here. Once the 5th Virginia moved up to pin them in there, but 5th Virginia is still. They had recovered, but they got disordered again when they moved up and tried to fire upon the 67th, 62nd Ohio over here. They moved up along with the 22nd. They moved up to kind of pin them in, and then the 4th and 2nd came around to flank them and push them back. So consequently, with that whole attack, the 67th Ohio was eliminated. A lot of 1Ds came up for them, and that really did in the job. Actually, it was just two 1Ds that came up for them, and that eliminated them in both times. So they got pushed. They got eliminated. Then the 67 Ohio back here got pushed. Or no, not yeah. They got pushed back, and now we've just got the 14th Indiana up here holding the line, along with the 8th Ohio moving over, and also the 5th Ohio over here. They were in extended line over here, but between the artillery attack and then some good shooting by the 21st Virginia from Burke's brigade, that actually took a step loss and they had to retreat. So they had to push back and retract their extension so they could retreat into the hex right here. So a little bit of action here, pushing back the Union a bit. Garnett's in okay position here. As I said, they're big unit. The 5th Virginia here, they took some hits. They've been disordered and they've lost 3 steps already. So they've got to be careful what they do going forward here. But the rest of them are in pretty good shape, and Burks have come up to help out in the attack over here and really push them back. The other one that's important to understand is Fulkerson up here. Fulkerson, a little recalculation after I did the video, and he was actually brigade ineffective because both of his units were disordered at the end of the turn. So he only has 2 activations over here. So his first activation, of course, was to recover, and both of them recovered easily with their high cohesion. And then their second activation, they attacked the 67th Ohio up here and took some shots at them. And actually, Kimball was wounded. So he actually went off the map. So he's actually wounded. So that's going to affect him. He'll come back on in the next turn with a replacement. But he's actually wounded. So the leader of Kimball's brigade, as well as the the overall commander on the field, has been wounded and he's off the map. So that'll have an effect on the next turn. But meanwhile, Fulkerson has pushed back, and they were going to shock, but the 5th Ohio retreated before shock and wound up in these positions here. So Fulkerson has gained this little wall just outside Kernstown and are pushing on here. But the big problem is if you look to the northwest here, you can see the line of batteries are arrayed right against here. So this 23rd Virginia is probably going to take some hits, as well as Fulkerson itself, from these batteries up here. But that will alleviate some pressure off the main attack over here from Jackson. We'll see how this, how that plays out when it comes up here. Like I said, we're only 4 chits in to the turn, and Jackson has had the advantage. But the Union now has the onus to counterattack. Now, a couple things on that. With this particular turn, 3 p.m. turn, they can take some activations and still gain victory points. If they take 1 activation, they'll gain victory points. Up to 2 activations, they will gain victory points. After that, then Confederates gain victory points. So we'll see. Shields came up already for the 4th activation in between the artillery and Jackson. He deferred. So that's going to be good. We'll see how Shields does with the Kimball, or his replacement does here with the rest of the turn, whether they need to activate or not. One other thing to note, you can see way over to the extreme, we've got Ashby's cavalry positioned on the flank of the artillery over here, protected only by the 1st Virginia, which is disrupted or disordered. Tilt you up a bit here so you can see a little bit better. There we go. And we'll zoom you in a little bit. That's always good. And move you over, and there you go. So you can see that a little bit better in terms of who's who. So they're defending over here. He's got 2 regiments, the 2nd Virginia, as I think I mentioned before, and the 7th Virginia over here. He's out of command, so he's only got a couple of activations. He's on the flank of the artillery, so he could potentially pivot over here. The only thing blocking him for infantry is this 84th Pennsylvania, who was designated to support that artillery. Now he can pivot back around, protect against that. But Ashby's got the freedom of maneuver. He could easily push back this cavalry here and then swing around up on Pritchard's Hill behind him over there. So they've got to be cognizant of that too. Now there's another cavalry unit who's been slowly falling back. He could come over to hopefully try to block as well. But we'll see what happens here. So still a very fluid situation. Union, is still up 4-2, as I mentioned from the last turn. But you can see how the victory points are starting to get a little bit more dynamic, and there'll still be some more decisions in terms of how the Union is going to respond to these pretty good attacks so far on this turn. So that's Jackson's initial attack. Stay tuned for the rest of the chits. Okay, we're back with a few more chits that have been drawn here at the 3 p.m. turn. The 3 chits that came out were Confederate cavalry, artillery, Union artillery, and Union cavalry. So in that order, what happened was mainly over here on the Confederate left flank. Ashby came up, pushed back 1st West Virginia. 2nd West Virginia over here kept coming up. They kept retreating, but they did fail and lost a step there. So that's another point for the Confederates. So that's going to be another hard victory point for them. So they're up to 3. Meantime, Ashby itself has turned the 7th Virginia around and facing the rear of the Union artillery on Pritchard's Hill. Can't advance up there because he's in attack mode over here. Now, during the Union cavalry's turn, they brought over the First Maryland, who was over here, to kind of block Ashby's movements, and also the First West Virginia recovered. So they've got one step left, and they're a little better position over there. The other thing to note with the other cavalry is that we have shifted them from a position up on this hill over to here. They're going to go and help try to hold off over there, disregarding this, knowing that the Union infantry can probably hold out over here without the cavalry over there. They're going to go and try to help out the other two cavalries hold off Ashby's attack over there. From the Confederate perspective, just zoom out here a little bit. They left the 7th over here just as a threat, but they did move the horse artillery, started to move over here back to the pike, and then look towards going over to the left, maybe hooking back up with Ashby, but maybe coming in here and supporting the attack in the center for Jackson. So the Union artillery over here took a few shots at Folkestone, and the only one that really scored a hit, let me zoom back in over here, was one on these guys right here, right where Folkestone is, which is 37 Virginia. The First Ohio L battery, excuse me, fired down here and actually disordered them, which forced a step loss, and that drove them back here a little bit. The others, no effect. The lighter batteries, the over here within there, the howitzers and the 6-pounders took shots at here but missed. The West Virginia took a shot over here but missed. And then the other thing was the battery back here, the big one, the P10s for the U.S., they resupplied and then pivoted because they're worried about this cavalry and worried about them back over there. So they're going to pivot around and try to take them on and not rely solely on the cavalry, because cavalry is very weak strength over there. So there's a good chance that Ashby would blow through them. So they're pivoting around, trying to be on the defensive. But any losses over there, that's going to be easy victory points for the Confederates. So we've got to be careful, and this is where it's now starting to drive what the next turn is going to look like for potentially bringing in those reinforcements, because if the cavalry is threatening that artillery, that could be heavy losses over there, and we may need to bring Tyler in either up on the road or down the Valley Pike to support this over here if we can't disengage and help support the hill over there. So that's something we're going to have to think about as time goes on. So about halfway through the chip pulls, so let me get back to it. And okay, back with a little bit more action here. So chits that came up here in this next segment were Shields, Confederate cavalry, Union artillery, Confederate artillery, and Union artillery. So first off, Shields, or his replacement, mainly now Sullivan, taking over command, really consolidated here, shifted a few units. The big thing here is the 11th Indiana. Now, they're the ones that still have 2 fatigue on them, who are up here, are shifting up towards the hill, because you can see there was some action on the hill, which we'll talk about here in a minute on here. But trying to consolidate these lines, I think going to be shifting back some units this way. Definitely Kimball's units here is shifted back to try to cover this gap between the artillery and Kernstown proper. Try to see about bringing the 14th Indiana, also part of Carroll or Kimball's units, back over here as well. Now, with the cavalry from the Confederate side up to the northwest over here, the Confederate cavalry run in and got really aggressive. Ashby pushed the attack, started to go up the hill, and of course forced the 1st Maryland to defend up here, because you see you've got the artillery, rear side of the artillery, which in their phase they turned, and I'll talk about those a little bit later. But 1st Maryland was forced to defend against a shock up here, and they got lucky. The First Maryland got really lucky because they rolled a standoff, and each one of them were just disordered over here, which also added the blown um, capacity to Ashby over here at the end of the turn. Now, he also finished his command over here, so he's kind of stuck and not as big of a threat as it was now. The other cavalries have moved back and adjusted. We're also shifting. You can just see off the frame right here, bring in the, oh no, right here, Pennsylvanians right here. The first Pennsylvanians, they're swinging over here as well, and you'll see why here in a second when we talk about the Confederate cavalry a little bit more. Okay, from the artillery perspective, back up here, we've swung the 4th U.S. all the way around. They recovered their low ammo, and then in the next activation, flipped around, took a shot, and guess what happened? They got low ammo again. So they, again, had to spend their last activation recovering ammos. The other units up front, the Ohio, First Ohio, and the 1st West Virginia took shots down here at Folkerston, and this time scored hits. The 23rd Virginia was disordered, and Folkerston was also disordered and had to fall back over here. So that had a little bit of good news over there, but still, it's a precarious position up on Pritchard's Hill with Ashby's cavalry in their rear. Now, the other thing with the cavalry is that back over here, let's tip you down, you can see that the horse artillery has shifted. Now that they're getting more success over there, they're going to shift over, and also the 7th Virginia is going to shift over here too. It's going to take them a couple turns to get up there, but they're going to shift over to the left to support them and get back into command. I'm not sure exactly where Ashby's artillery is going to go to, but we'll see when that happens. Then for Confederate artillery, not much, a little shooting across the Hogue Run here with which one? The Augusta batteries over here, disordering the 5th Ohio over there. So that's it for that set of activations. Stay tuned for the last set and the wrap up of the turn. Okay, bringing you to the end of the turn. Last chits that came out were Jackson, Confederate artillery, Union cavalry, Confederate cavalry, and then Shields chit. So basically, not too much going on. The biggest thing that happened was that Sullivan, now commander, field commander, took another activation. So that has two effects. One, he was able to reposition a few units. You can see some of his brigade are now shifting left. We also have up here the 11th Indiana potentially moving up to block Ashby's efforts to attack up there. Let's get these commands off. Finish commands off so you can see what this looks like. And that's going to allow some a little bit more defense on there. Now the downside to that is they gave up a victory point for that, but they're still going to pick up 2 victory points, one for not bringing in the reinforcements, and one for only using 2 activations this turn, and not 3. So they're in good shape from the Union perspective, holding a line like this. A little beat up, particularly Kimball's, now Carroll's brigade. They've lost 1 unit. This unit has collapsed, so that's 2 down. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 2 out of 6 are down. Still okay, but they've got to watch out for BCE if they lose any more. Coming off of there. Sullivan's brigade hasn't been really engaged yet. They've got 1 disrupted unit down here, but they're in good stead. From the Confederates' perspective, Jackson, Garnett is in a good attacking position, although they failed to get the 5th Virginia back up to speed, and that's going to hurt them beginning of next turn. We've got Burke down here, who's still unactivated or not in the attack yet. The one concern here is Folkerston. He's combat brigade ineffective because all the artillery is concentrating on him over here. They're both disordered. They can get out of it, but they've got to, be out of it for more than one turn. So that limits them to just 2 activations per turn. So we may see some effort come over here, maybe getting Burks heading up towards Pritchard's house and formulating the attack over there while Garnett holds position over here because Ashby's made such a good progress over there. His reinforcing cavalry has moved up here as well. So really, there's still quite a bit to go. They did pick up another victory point, so they've got 3 victory points this turn, or at this point, with the loss of the Union cavalry way up here, just off frame, and that puts the score now at 6-3, and we're just a little bit over halfway done. So we're moving on to the 4 p.m. turn. That'll be the 1600 turn, and see how that goes. So stay tuned for that. So once again, if you're liking this, please follow us on the playlist and also subscribe. Trying to put these out every day, every other day or so here. So I'm hopeful to get done before the next week is out. And please comment and like us and continue watching. So thanks for watching.